right now, in which all of us feel in a more revealed way than normal, the brokenness. We feel brokenness in the world, with racial tensions, people feeling they've been abused and are being abused, a politics of derision and conflict, a breakdown in the unity that we usually find in America. We sit down now broken in our communities, not being able to meet in our worship places inside of our sanctuaries. We feel the brokenness in our relationships, in not being able to speak to each other in person, to give each other embraces, to hold each other, to be present with each other. Musicians are not able to play together and meet together. So many live events, weddings, and occasions have been canceled. We feel the brokenness in our society right now. And each and every one of us is trying to move on, to trying to live in this darkness and trying to live during this time. Inside of us, there is also brokenness. Inside of who we are, inside of our hopes and our dreams and our expectations of what life should be and was. Every single one of us has some sort of regret or pain. Everyone has something inside of themselves they wishes could be different. And we struggle with this brokenness inside. We ask, are we allowed to truly enter the sanctuary of God in our state of brokenness? So today, as we've been certainly feeling in a revealed way for the past 3 months since this pandemic broke out, but in some ways we've always truly been experiencing brokenness within and without. In some ways we feel that everything should be perfect. Why doesn't everything work correctly? Somewhere in our distant memory, we have some kind of internal cognition that things should be better, that things should be worked differently. And somehow we are surprised when we see that brokenness in the world, when we see the cracks within our reality. We are taken aback. We are confounded. We feel as though we should put down our bags and put everything away. But as you know, that is certainly not the path we should walk down. But the question is why? Because there will not stop being brokenness, and there will not stop being destruction in our paths. And if God created this world, why isn't it not good? Why is it not perfect? If God is perfect, why isn't this world perfect? It stops many people from believing and having faith and having a connection from God, because if God is so good, why do we experience so much sorrow and suffering within our reality? Of all different kinds. So many obstacles are constantly around us. I think Judaism and Torah has what to offer us at this moment in answer to this question. Our parsha this week is Torah Shlach, the story of sending the spies or the scouts into the land of Israel to scout out the land, to see what the challenges ahead may be. As the Israelites stand ready to move in, the Jewish people want to send out scouts into the land to see how they should conquer the land of Israel, the land, the promised land in which God was going to give them. The scouts were sent in, and they came back with the report, not only detailing the challenges that lay ahead, the giant people ahead, the well-fortified towns, that this would be a hard military conquest, but jumping to the conclusion that we all should just lay down our weapons and we're going to die right in our place. That we can't conquer this land, that we can't walk into this land. What were these spies and these scouts reacting to? What was going on? If this is the land of Israel, why were there challenges? If this is the land of milk and honey that will be sweet to the Jewish people, if it's an inheritance of our people, then why does there seem to be so much darkness? The scouts looked into that darkness and they looked into that challenge and they said, we might as well give up. And we might as well stop. It's a natural reaction to brokenness. Many of us often react that way. We all react that way to brokenness when we see it, when we see that shattering. It's almost as though, how can we ever imagine that being fixed in the first place? But our life is never perfect. Life is always shattered. The amazing thing is that we expect it to be perfection when we walk in. We have some sort of expectation that things will be whole. And so every time we are surprised when we find brokenness. Why is that? We know that this world is a finite world. We know that we human beings are finite and limited. We human beings are not perfect. How do we think everything is going to be perfect? We somehow always return to this instinct within humanity that things will be good. And then we're always surprised when things are broken. The reaction to that surprise, when we are surprised, often happens that we just let everything go. Because we're surprised. Because we didn't expect to see the brokenness. But what happens if we try to experience a paradigm shift? If what it means to be a human being is to walk through a world which is broken, which in some ways needs to be broken for us to live. We are told by our great Jewish mystics that God wants to know us, that God wants to be in relationship to us, God who is eternal and beyond all things. God wants to be connected to us. Yet it's difficult because we are finite beings. We are beings who are born and we are beings who die. We are beings who heal and we are beings who get sick. We are beings who fall down and we are beings who rise up. How can we possibly know a God that is completely perfect? God's greatest pleasure is in knowing man, in connecting to man. The phrase that we have in our literature is, what that means is that God's presence is lifted up. When God knows man, and God has relationship to man within our finite world, that's what we call ukma shchintam afara. In Aramaic, the lifting of God's feminine indwelling presence from the dust. How does this happen? It's when man lifts up that darkness and finds God within it. It's when man chooses to repair the darkness, to be unfettered by the brokenness and the shattering man sees around them, and instead work to lift that brokenness up. To walk in and strategize and try to fix what is dark and what is hard. The way we are able to accomplish this as Jews is by preparing for brokenness, by understanding that within all situations in life, there will always be brokenness. If you expect it to be perfect, if you expect it to be automatically good, if you expect it to be automatically easy, you are not concerned with you're not concerned with God, you are concerned with yourself. God's dream is for repair. God's dream is that human beings repair and filter out the good from the finite darkness we find ourselves in. When human beings filter out this darkness, when human beings work to repair and find godliness amongst the darkness, amongst the shattering, we find God. We find the perfect. We find the good. We find the ultimate. And that gives God the ultimate pleasure. For that is the reason why God created this world. The world needed to be shattered. Because that's what it means to live in a finite world. That means that even the infinite God can connect to the finite, which is the most powerful thing that God can do. To connect to finite beings that are not infinite, to connect to something that is not like God, is the greatest pleasure God can possibly have. But if we human beings look like we're going to go and think we're going to go into a situation and want everything to be perfect immediately and good, where is the tikkun? Where is the rectification in that? Where is the divine pleasure from that? If we want God's presence to dwell, if our goal as Jews is for God's presence to dwell in our lives, we have to dwell amongst the darkness and the shatteredness. And we have to be among those working to repair the brokenness, to find the goodness. That as Jews, brokenness should spur us on. The fallen qualities we see around us in our world today, the broken qualities we see in us, should give us a roadmap to finding God within our world. They give us a plan of how to bring joy in our small, finite life, because life is finite. Life is temporary. We're not going to be here forever. What is infinite is the pleasure we can give to God in rectifying this world and creating a bridge and connection to the infinite within our own lives and in the lives of this world. And that's what Joshua and Caleb wanted to do. They wanted to go into the Holy Land, and they knew that there would be hardship, and they knew that there would be brokenness. They were prepared for brokenness. They knew there would be hardship, because if there wasn't hardship, it wouldn't have been the Holy Land. It would just be any other land. We human beings strive and struggle to live in other lands, but God wants us to live in the Holy Land. If you want to follow Moshe Rabbeinu, if you want God's promise, you've got to live in the Holy Land. And if you want to live in the Holy Land, there's going to be challenges and there's going to be struggles. But within those struggles and within that darkness and within working to repair and find God's light within the darkness outside of us and the darkness inside of us, we find God. We lift the Shekhinah from the dust. And I want to say that it shouldn't be wrong necessarily that we expect there to be goodness and that we expect there to be perfection in the world. Why do we believe that as human beings, if our pure function is to repair the brokenness? Why? God gives us the gift of what things used to be or what things could possibly be, because we are connected to God, because we are built in the image of God, that we have an understanding of the way things used to be or should be. Animals don't have that understanding. Animals only have what is. Human beings have what should be. One of the qualities of human beings is to dream. So it's not all necessarily wrong that we are surprised when there's brokenness. But we must balance this with an understanding that there will be brokenness. On one hand, we human beings dream of a higher reality. We dream of the perfection and the goodness of God in our world. And that helps us to understand where we would like to go. But if you don't prepare yourself that reality is not going to be automatically there, but at every moment as human beings we're going to be faced with a new brokenness, then you're going to be like the 10 spies who wanted to just stay right in the desert, who said it's too hard to rise up. We must prepare that there will be brokenness. Be thankful that we expect and wish there to be good and dream of a higher reality connected to God. Because if we're not dreamers and we're not hopers, then we have nothing. Yet if you believe that there won't be brokenness, if you think you'll go into a situation without brokenness, then there's no opportunity to find that goodness, to find that blessedness. The true goodness we find is working for it. The true holiness we find is in the darkness. We have a great opportunity as Americans right now. We have a great opportunity as Jews right now to understand and to see that there's darkness all around us, and to see the potential within the darkness for light, for repair, to work for racial justice, to work to heal from this horrible disease, to work to heal our relationships and our families. We as Jews are warriors who step into the darkness and create a bridge for ourselves and for others. But we can only do that if we prepare for the darkness, if we prepare for the brokenness. And that's why we are given the mitzvah in Torah Shlach of tzitzit. We're supposed to put tzitzit on the four corners of our garments so that we can always see the many details of the mitzvot. We're told, Lo tatur achrei einechem. Don't go after your eyes. Don't let your thoughts get at you. Putting tzitzit on is a reminder that and a knowledge that there is going to be hardship and there's going to be broken in the four corners. Everywhere we look, there is going to be brokenness. That's what we state when we wear tzitzit. But it is our duty as Jews, if we want to find God, if we're looking for godliness within this finite reality, to be on the side of working to fix that brokenness, to work to be a healing balm to that brokenness. And in doing so, is the Jewish path of finding God. The tzitzit are supposed to spur us on, that when we look and we see that darkness, we also see the tzitzit are ropes, which are mitzvot, that help us climb over the destruction and climb in order to fix that brokenness and mend it as partners with God in creation. So I invite each and every one of you in this dark time not to be too surprised by the brokenness you see, but to understand the great potential we have for finding God in this moment, for helping others find God by mending our reality and trying to live better lives by doing God's Torah. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.